Welcome to episode 5 of the podcast, and this is the cardio episode. We're going to talk all about cardio. What is cardio? What are the benefits of cardio? We're going to get a little bit sciencey because you kind of need to understand the principles of the energy systems our body uses to understand the different types of cardio and when and where and how you would apply them. We'll also talk about how cardio is abused and the different types of cardio you can do depending on your goals. So it's going to be a good one, and bear with the sciencey bits. If you get a bit of PTSD from your biology and chemistry lessons, apologies. Yeah, when I was reading through this, it took me back to biology at Hillcrest. Sometimes. Anyway, it is another cold morning in Nairobi, but Andy looks like he's in a t-shirt.
Yeah, I'm in t-shirt and shorts. Although it's been warmer. It's probably warmer outside than it is inside, to be fair.
Yeah.
Pretty sunny outside, so
it's the opposite.
Yeah, in my office it's relatively cold, but yeah, it's not really cold. It's like still.
It's colder inside than outside here, man.
Yeah, here it's.
Yeah, it's because the houses have no insulation.
Yeah. That's true.
No floors.
Well, we thought we'd kick this episode off not talking about cardio, but Andy did a really great post the other day all about sort of swipe through, swipe and save, workouts that people, well, mainly fitfluencers, do on Instagram, and the sort of their downfall and pitfalls. Andy?
Yeah, look, and I know not everyone necessarily agrees, but it's a really simple principle that, a bit like, as I said to Leon, back in the old days, what you used to find in the old bodybuilding and fitness magazines was, this pro saying they did this workout, which they never did, and for you to copy it. Reality was those workouts weren't really designed for the reader.
No.
They're designed for entertainment. And the same with like all the stuff on Instagram isn't designed for actually progressing. There's no progress to be had, because it's not specific to you. It's not specific to your goals. It's very hard to progress on a lot of those exercises. There's many factors, and the reality is, what I think is there's people out there following these workouts, not progressing and blaming themselves, thinking, oh, look at this person posting it. They've got such a great physique. Obviously, the problem's me, because they must do that to get their physique. Yeah. Not realizing a lot goes into that physique they're portraying on Instagram that you don't see. And, yes, someone did comment that you can get inspiration from it, and you can, but you've got to be quite aware of what you're looking at and saying which bits you're going to pick out. There is no point copying just for the sake of copying a workout off Instagram. The world's changed. There's so much information out there now. You can learn to program your own workout just by listening to a few podcasts, looking at a few things on YouTube. You can find out how to do exercises on YouTube. There's so many instructional videos out there. You can go to somewhere like the Muscle Mentors YouTube channel, and there's loads of demonstrations of exercises. And, you can choose exercises for the equipment you've got that are going to be able to be progressed and, progressively overload that. And as I was saying to you before, the only exception to those is things like mobility and stretching, where it's not a goal of progression, it's just a goal of trying to get people to do it. And, those are fine because you can put those in. But again, you've got to be careful about technique on some things. But the reality is, I just think people are being sold an idea, a dream, that's never going to be achievable from those.
Yeah, true. Because it's like you said with the magazines, when sadly, when you were training and you're following, Ronnie Coleman, you're in your head, you're thinking, man, in
Yeah.
Well, for me, I remember telling myself in 2 years I'll look like Ronnie Coleman, and I'm doing
100%.
yeah, and then I I remember it was super high volume. You don't know anything about enhancements, supplements, but if I do this, I look like him. That's all you needed to know, and it's the same way you said it. It's almost like being sold a pipe dream. It's you're watching.
But
Say,
it's a bit like the training videos as well. Like I used to love watching people I'd watch Blood and Guts during the
oh
year, but
yeah,
I'd also watch a Branch Warren's one. You love Branch Warren's one because it's just hard,
it's just
nasty training.
yep.
But there's no explanation to any of the exercises. You're just watching a guy smashing weights around. And Branch's form was pretty bad, to be fair.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Look back on him now, I'm like, ooh. He's just throwing weights around. And it worked for him. He was one of the best bodybuilders in the world.
Yeah,
And he was a very intense person. And you can learn the intensity from that. But, his exercise selection, I don't know how much thought went into his exercise selection because there's no rationale. Like a lot of the videos nowadays, people will give you the rationale behind their training. Like you can watch a training video of someone like James Holland. He will go through why they do certain things.
yes, indeed.
Why he does certain things because it works for him. Like certain bicep exercises. Watching a bicep video on the Redcon channel. He was saying he does that one because he just feels it more. And then Louis, his training partner, did it slightly different because for him, he's got slightly different length in levers. His arms are different length, so he does it slightly differently. So there's a lot more education nowadays. So I think, and the way we consume social media is changing. There's more of a sort of educational purpose behind things like Instagram now. And well, there isn't, and there is. There's a lot more influencers there as well. But there's a lot more people putting out good content. And I just think saying, copy, save, try my workout, it's just lazy content. If you said, this is what I'm doing, and this is why I'm doing it, this is the outcomes I expect, you may need to do this to make it work for you. That's fine. But just saying, save and try it out is the wrong message. It's just lazy and it's not helping anyone.
Well, it's also kind of perpetuating, like, as a viewer or reader or consumer of that content, you're just being spoon-fed. You're not taking the time to try and understand any of the principles.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we always harp on about, like, just understand the basics, because then you can look at whoever's program and be like, no, that's not going to work. Yeah. So, I always think understand the basics, and that is what this cardio episode is all about. And I mean, first of all, we can just talk about the benefits of cardio. And I think, people fall in two camps when it comes to cardio. There's the die-hard cardio people, and then those who are like, cardio is going to ruin my gains. Not going to do cardio.
Oh, yeah. I used to be the anti-cardio group, I know a few years ago. And sadly, I believed cardio kills gains because, well, there was just lack of information. And like we said, reading the magazines, when you see the bodybuilders are like, nah, in the off season, I don't do cardio because it kills the gains. And you grow up knowing, if I'm trying to grow, less cardio. So it's a bit of false information, I think. And
I think there's a misconception about cardio as well.
Mm-hmm.
The one hand is it steals your gains. The other hand, it's a weight loss tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to me, it's neither. All my clients have cardio in all their programs. Not crazy amounts, but a little bit, because it clues in the title. I think I've said this before in the podcast. It's cardio, heart health. We want to get the blood pumping. We want to get the systems working. We don't want to use it as a tool for fat loss. I don't anyway. And you can, because it does work. You will lose weight from doing cardio, excessive amounts of cardio especially. But the importance of it is this heart, lung health. I did a post, didn't I? I think it might be included in the overdoing cardio and the uses of cardio post a few, maybe 2 weeks ago. And, But I have my theories. It won't kill your gains as long as you're not an idiot.
Yeah.
And you're not trying to run a marathon every other day, you know? You're not spending 2 hours on a piece of cardio equipment. But we can go into a bit more detail. That's just...
Yeah, and I mean, it's cardiovascular health. That is, as Andy said, your heart and your lungs. So that is what cardio is, working and improving, you know. So, and that can, you know, if you do cardio, that can translate into your performance in the gym as well. You know, it's a form of stress relief. You know, you can use it as a tool to help reduce the risk of certain diseases like heart disease. And then, like Andy says, it can be a tool in fat loss if used properly. So I think let's just understand sort of the energy systems your body uses, because this kind of underpins kind of what kind of cardio you want to do and why. So your body's universal energy currency is a molecule called ATP. You might have heard of that, or it might ring a bell. And that's adenosine triphosphate. And that's used in everything, in every single reaction in your body. And your body can store some of it, but only a little bit for like a couple of seconds. And then you'll need to make more. And it's just the breaking of bonds and reforming of bonds with this ATP molecule that produces energy. So there are 3 main systems, you know, different textbooks, or if you go on, you know, online, call them different things. And to an extent, they run at the same time, and your body is really good. Well, it's a very smooth machine in, you know, coordinating these energy systems. So your first one is your, well, different names, like I said, but like your ATP PC system. So that is if you are doing super intense exercise and it's for a very short period of time, 10 seconds, maybe max 15. So your body is creating more energy from ADP and a phosphocreatine molecule. Okay, so ADP is adenosine diphosphate. So it needs another phosphate to become a triphosphate. And this is actually interesting where creatine, supplementing creatine comes in if you understand this system. So you're creating more ATP from ADP and phosphocreatine with an enzyme called creatine kinase. Fun times. So this is, let's say you're at the starting line of a sprint. The first 2 seconds, your muscles will use up your stored ATP. Yeah, and then you need to use now the ATP PC system for the next 10 seconds. But that is all it can sustain, that brief 10 seconds of intense energy. And your body does store, well, your muscles do store some creatine as well, but this is where if you supplement it, you're helping your body make ATP. Fun. So from there, your body can't keep up, your ATP PC system can't keep up with this level of intense activity. So another energy system kicks in. And in fact, this energy system, it starts the same time as the ATP PC system does, but it's slower. So it only kicks in now after that 10 to 15 seconds. And this is called your glycolytic pathway. So now your body is going to make ATP from glycogen, blood glucose, and glycerol. And this is all within the cell. And this can now fuel you for about 90 seconds more of activity. So it's slower than the first energy system. So this is now if you've done your first burst of sprinting, what comes next? And a byproduct of what's called glycolysis are hydrogen ions. And that's kind of an acidic buildup in the muscles, which causes that burn. And I'm sure we've all felt that at some point. And again, so you kind of, that kind of slows you down as well. It can be hard to push through that. So then after that 90 seconds, now the third energy system kicks in. And this one you can just keep going and going, but it's the slowest of them all. And this is the oxidative, phosphorylative, or aerobic system. And it's using oxygen. Yeah. You're using oxygen, you're using fats and carbohydrates to create ATP. So it is a slow process. You can keep going indefinitely as long as you have oxygen, fat and carbohydrates. But yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. As long as you've got tissue on your body and some oxygen, you'll keep going. Until you wither away.
Until you wither away, yeah. So just having a basic understanding of those three energy systems and how they work, you can kind of then, based on that, decide like which energy system do you want to work? Because different types of cardio will work different ones. Yeah. If you're a sprinter, you're probably going to be working on the first energy system, your ATP PC system. If you're a marathon runner, maybe you want to get better at the oxidative aerobic one. So just having a basic understanding of that, I think, really helps. You don't need to know all the sort of fine details of it, although it is really interesting. And I think, especially in understanding how creatine works in the body, understanding that first energy system it's just really interesting, because you do get creatine from meat. So it has been shown in studies that vegans and vegetarians respond more to creatine because they're just not getting it from their diet. And, a lot of people think, oh, well, creatine is just about, I don't know, making your muscles stronger or water. And it's like, well, actually, it's helping you make ATP. And that's every single process in your body. That's why creatine is amazing.
And this is what people forget, like the process of methylation, which is ongoing for our body, is the breakdown of cells. We need ATP to make new cells and to fuel this process. And this is why I actually tell all my clients, creatine is important, not for your muscles, it is, and training, but actually to prevent degenerative illness. And it's been the science behind brain, the use of creatine is super amazing. New studies that show 3 to 5 grams of creatine a day can offset things like Alzheimer's and dementia. So
it's amazing, and it's like there are no downsides of taking creatine. No. Not expensive. It's I think safe. It's safe. It's so studied, and it's just a win-win. But yeah, just understanding how it kind of fits and works.
And it's calorie-free.
Calorie-free.
You can't load it. When you're really hungry, just dry scoop it.
Dry scoop it. Oh. Oh man. Oh dear, that's funny.
It's awful though. Yeah.
So I think that leads us into the different types of cardio. So we've got lots of different types of cardio, and some of them are abused and some of them are misunderstood. So let's I think start with the most abused one, which is HIIT training, HIIT training, high intensity interval training.
It's really been busted.
So if you have understood the energy systems, true HIIT training is going to work the ATP-PC system. So now that is 10 seconds of all out activity. So if you can't see me, I'm doing quote unquote, HIIT training is 40 seconds of work, you're not working the ATP-PC system at all.
Yeah, it's not HIIT training. Like most people don't actually do HIIT training. People think they do HIIT training and say, just do some HIIT training because they've got some battle ropes out. No. Actually, they're not.
You're not
at all.
So if you're doing true HIIT training, you're working your ATP-PC system. So your interval is going to be max 10 seconds. So
it's like a sprint.
It's a sprint. And then you need to recover. So it's not like it's not Tabata training, 20 seconds rest. No, you need a full-on 50 seconds of rest, even more.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes about 60 seconds for the ATP to start regenerating.
So think of, like sprinting, fabulous. The assault bike, fabulous. You need something that you can go straight into, all out, full on 10 seconds of your chosen exercise. So yeah, assault bike and sprinting work really well for that. I don't know if you guys have any other favorites.
No, I'm trying
I like fart legging.
Yeah.
You what?
Fart legging. So it's like where you say, so you start, walking as your recovery, jog, and then sprint. But the sprint's like really short. It's like 10 seconds, then you're back to walking, jogging, sprinting.
Yeah.
The walking and jogging take up a minute.
Yeah.
The sprinting's like 10, 20 seconds. We used to do a lot for rugby. Like we'd go for a run around, let's say a 5 miler, but we'd use lampposts. We go, right, we'll walk, jog up to those ones, and we sprint between that one and that one.
Yeah, we did it a lot.
It's sports. I think sports performance use that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's great. And the thing is, you're not going to be doing HIIT training for an hour.
No.
It's supposed to be very quick and effective. I think 10, 20 minutes max.
Yeah.
And what you see touted about this a lot is you probably call it the EPOC effect. So I have to remind myself what this stands for. It's excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. So this is all the metabolic processes that go on after intense activity to get you back to homeostasis. Yeah. And this uses extra energy, so calories burned. So everyone's like, oh, do HIIT training and you will burn calories all day long. To an extent, yes, if you've done true HIIT training, okay? But I remember first reading about that. I was like, oh my gosh, amazing. I can do HIIT training and I'm just going to be a calorie burning machine the rest of the day. And you're like, to an extent, but you have to be working the correct energy system and you have to have gone hard, but you've done it for 10 to 20 minutes. Yeah. And then you get that post-epoch effect.
So I guess it's, to break it down for guys, it's 10 seconds on and then 50 off. 50 to 60 seconds. Off. Yeah, so if you see anything, saying 40 seconds on, 20, that, and it started as just
no.
Yeah, just remember this part of the podcast and you'll be able to tell the difference.
Yeah, I mean, that's more what we call HIIT, HIT, or MIT, moderate intensity.
Yeah.
And now that's your more, where you see circuit training, kind of 40 seconds on, 30 seconds on. That falls under that category. And so if you're doing that type of training, what are we working? The glycolytic pathway. So again, keep that in mind. And, that kind of training has its place as well. Because you are improving, your endurance, your sort of performance. And I would say that kind of interval training, it has its place in your program, but it is quite specific. So you've got to be asking yourself, why are you wanting to use this? What for? How often? Because it's not easy to recover from. If you're doing, a long kind of interval session, you've got to take into account your recovery and your nutrition. Because again, if you remember, when we're using this pathway, you're now starting to use carbohydrates. So if you're a serious undereater, you're going to be super stressing your body if you're using this type of training, overusing it.
Yeah, and you're using up the glycogen that's in your muscle stores first. You use the glycogen when you use a blood glucose, when you use liver glycerol. But, restored restore carbohydrates. And the reality is, if you then go into the gym without fully restoring or your blood like your muscle glycogen, you are going to be weaker. And I've seen it where people have done a load of like cardio before lifting weights, and they can't work out why they can barely move any of the weights like they normally do. And it's because you've used up your energy reserves.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got to think, how is this going to fit into my program? Why am I programming it? You know, if it's just because it's gonna make you sweat, which it probably will, you know, that's not a reason. That is not a reason. And I kind of think metabolic conditioning falls under this as well. So those are kind of your CrossFit WODs, sort of where you're doing maybe 4 minutes of work. So maybe a circuit of 4 different exercises, you know, like bull slams, thrusters, ropes. So you'd maybe do 4 minutes of work, and then you would take a good rest. I would say that's a typical like CrossFit WOD style metabolic conditioning workout.
And even some sports just to help athletes increase their overall endurance, depending on what part of the season. So
and it's like, again, what are we trying to train and why? And it is improving the efficiency, you know, of your of your body to you know make ATP and just be more efficient. Your mitochondria, which is sort of the power cells in your body. And again, this has carry over to your performance in your gym, in your sport, in all of that. And we are now using, I mean, if it's going for more than 90 seconds, so now we are going into the third system. So there's an overlap of systems with metabolic conditioning, you know, so again, you're going to need fuel. You're going to need fuel. And I do help a couple of clients who do CrossFit with their nutrition. And for a lot of women in particular, you know, if you are a dieter and you're doing CrossFit, it doesn't work because these WODs are intense. You need carbohydrates.
Yeah, and this is why people have got pretty ill from doing CrossFit at times, because their system's running on empty when we go in because they've been chronically dieting. We do a CrossFit session and they've ran out, you know, body's lost the carbohydrates. It's using up what it can out of the tissue. But also, you know, you've lost loads of electrolytes and your system's just going to fall to bits if your nutrition's not up to par. It's a bit like trying to run a marathon without any nutrition. You know, it stresses on the body. You know, anyone who's ever played like a crazy game of rugby will know that, you know, you need to be fueled when you go in. You can't go into a rugby game hungry because you won't make the full game. You know, you just won't have enough energy. And same with anything that's super intense, involving a lot of, you know, one muscle work, cardio work, endurance work, all thrown in together. It's just, you know, your system needs to be fueled. So if you're a chronic dieter, you need to, like, you know, if you're on very low calories as well, maybe someone who's getting ready for a bodybuilding show shouldn't be looking at doing something that, you know, that intense, because you just don't have the nutrition in your body to sustain it. Well, you know, crashing your systems, increasing cortisol levels, which are then just, you know, your immune system's crashing, you get sick, feel like crap, you look like crap.
Yeah, and I think, as you know, Leon said, like a lot of sports use these types of training, and that's where the goal is performance. It's not aesthetics.
Yes.
You know, if your goal is performance, you know, fuel and nourishing yourself for these activities is absolutely paramount. You know, if you're going to get the most out of these styles of training, you know, then you'll need to fuel yourself. They can be used for fat loss, but then you've got to be really, really careful. I think we can get into that a little bit later, you know, how you can use those for fat loss.
And this is why sports teams will put on in their carbohydrate fluids.
Yeah.
They're like carbohydrates and vitamins in their water. It's not water they're drinking on the rugby pitch or football pitch when you see a professional team playing. It's a carbohydrate with probably B vitamins and salts, electrolytes.
Yeah.
You know?
So I mean,
And they keep that going throughout the game.
True. And like if you watch marathon runners there or trail runners or what do you call them?
They use gels, carbohydrate gels most of the time now because they're smaller, so they just squeeze them in.
Ultra marathons, that's it. So you can keep going and going if you're fueling your body. Like if an ultra marathoner didn't eat anything, they won't be able to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I ran a few marathons in my time when I was younger. And in those days, it used to be Isostar. Isostar was this carbohydrate drink, came in a powder. They used to mix it up and have it at stations. So you'd have a water station and a carbohydrate drink station. So you'd choose which one depending on how you were feeling. So, but it would be all the way around, like every couple of miles or whatever, there'd be a carbohydrate station.
Oh yeah, we used to use Fanta. So yeah, because you couldn't afford supplements.
Yeah.
So the best thing the teams would do is, like get a crate and then mix it with water, and then in between.
Yeah, water it down a little bit. All right.
Yeah.
Jelly beans. Yeah. Jelly beans and jelly babies were a big one when I was younger as well.
Yeah.
But now you look at it and you're like, probably the wrong source of carbohydrates. So just gone.
Because sadly, well, now at least all this is available, but supplements used to be expensive. But now you can afford all these things. There's so much information when it comes to all this.
And it doesn't need to be expensive either, because when you look at what you can actually use, and this is why actually things like oranges used to be, like in the old days, like half time we used to bring on a plate of oranges.
Yeah.
Things like that, it worked. It's probably not enough. You probably need it throughout the game.
Yeah.
But fact is, a lot of the guys playing in the old day had a lot more fat stores to utilize.
Yeah.
To convert to carbohydrates. But realistically, there is a lot more information. There is things you can do cheaply to make carbohydrates for your training. People, you start with like things like, although I'm not massive, and bananas, things like that, where, you're also getting potassium out of it, which you'll be leaching as you exercise, but you've got the carbohydrate, it's got the fiber, so it's not going to go straight, get taken straight up by the insulin into your cells. So,
Yeah, and I think you've got to remember that carbohydrates are your body's sort of preferred fuel source. Mm-hmm. So people who are carbophobes are not doing themselves any favors. So let's get to the last type of cardio, which is your sort of steady state cardio. This is running off that third energy system, the oxidative phosphorylative pathway, where you can keep going indefinitely if you've got oxygen and you've got fuel for your body. This could be a marathon, this could be a long walk, a long swim, generally over 30 minutes of activity. It's also called LISS, which is low intensity steady state cardio. So you might have seen that written somewhere. And, this helps you build your sort of aerobic kind of foundation. So if you are, just not coming into cardio, but, just starting cardio, it's a good place to start rather than going straight into something like HIIT, or even a conditioning circuit. And I mean, you can do this every day. Your body can recover from it. It's not so strenuous on your body. And I think people should be doing some form of LISS, if not every day, a few times a week.
Yeah, as long as it's done properly, that's the thing. I think people merge things, and that's what we're seeing. Like, we think they're doing HIIT and not. We think they're doing LISS, but they're not, because they're doing a bit of too much. Mm-hmm. No, it is all about recoverability at the end of the day with LISS. I have my guys doing sort of what would be more intense LISS or lower miss, moderate sort of to low. So it's like half hour straight out, boom, 3 half-hour sessions a week.
Yeah.
Good, but lists itself, as you said, you could do lists, proper lists, a nice low level list. You could do every single day, and you can't do like I do with steps. Like I take the dog to walk, my heart rate's up, walk relatively decent pace, walk back, feel good, and you just make sure it's using the calories you've got. It doesn't need to be overly you don't need overly nutrition to support that. So everyone should have some form of list in their day, every day probably.
Yeah.
So I think let's look at how to incorporate all of them and why you would choose a certain type. So why not tackle fat loss? Because that's what everybody wants. And I think people abuse HIIT in an attempt to achieve fat loss. And I mean, Andy, you nailed it on the head. Recoverability is going to be key, especially in a fat loss phase.
You've got less calories in, so you've got less nutrients in theory. Although you'd say keep certain foods in. But if you are someone who's trying to do true HIIT, or even doing some sort of hybrid HIIT, sort of almost MIT, is you are probably in the wrong place with your nutrition if you're in a calorie deficit. I think we when we were speaking to Walter, he was saying how much he ate, and that's because he's doing those quick, explosive runs, 100-meter sprinting, 10 seconds of activity, stopping, recovering, going again, and that it's not easy to recover from.
And it's hard on the body. I mean, you can
Yes.
You can really hurt yourself doing true HIIT. And if you are going to include it as a sort of in your fat loss protocol, you will have to be a bit more careful with your nutrition. Maybe this is where you use your, you sandwich your carbs like kind of around that, so that you can fuel it and you can still get the epoch effect going. But if you can't recover from that, and if it interferes with your strength training, which as all of us agree, that is key. Like having muscle is will really help you with fat loss because it is an expensive tissue, a metabolically expensive tissue for your body. So it's going to burn more calories at rest, which does help to increase your metabolic rate. So more muscle means more calories burned anyway, which is just fabulous. So you want to keep your muscle tissue at all costs. And if you're using, too much energy on your HIIT or your conditioning, your body can create ATP from any of the macronutrients, from protein as well. It can break down muscle tissue for that. And again,
it's not fussy.
Yeah,
it's not fussy where it gets it from.
Yeah,
just steal it from you. Break down muscle tissue.
I think fueling before doing sort of any sort of cardio like that would be very key. Like rather than going in fasted, I would
fasted HIIT. Oh my gosh.
I would advise fuel before, let digestion do its thing, so an hour maybe, and then do your HIIT. And also with HIIT, I'd say maybe another reason to do it if your coach has programmed, assuming you don't have enough time in the day and you have programmed cardio in, then maybe HIIT would be an option. But just doing it because, well, I'm tired, I'm bored of my training. So today I'll do HIITs, tomorrow I'll do this, next day I'll do some saved workout from Instagram.
Some saved HIIT workout.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. So plan your, like Clea said, plan your meals around, especially if you can have your carbs before, fuel the workout, use the correct energy systems, and then after you will get the effects, the desired effects.
Again, it's about performance here. It's like, it's about brings us back to knowing your goal. Your goal is body composition, losing fat, looking shredded and big, like muscle. It isn't for you because it's a performance tool. Yeah. True HIIT is a performance tool, and therefore you will eat for performance. Therefore, you're less worried about how your body looks as long as it can perform.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a reality. If HIIT is a tool which was created for performance-based athletes.
Yeah, actually, that's where it started anyway, and then.
Well, now people just use it because it makes you sweat and feels like you're burning calories, and
it looks good on the gram. It looks good on the gram when you're doing crazy jumping around, bit of battle ropes, jumping to that thing.
Oh boy. And so just think about stress for a minute. Like, stress is not just mental. Stress is physical. And if you remember from our episode last week, high stress is the hormone cortisol, which is catabolic. That means it breaks down muscle. So if you are now really stressing out your body with all this HIIT and you are trying to maintain your muscle, that is not a good mix. So really got to take into account your recoverability. And if you are on low calories, recoverability is not going to be high. So if you're someone who is doing HIIT 4 times a week and you're in a fat loss phase, you might want to rethink that protocol. I would say once, max twice a week, if you're very smart with your nutrition and you can recover from it. If you're doing it for performance, that's a different story. I'm not a sports sort of or strength and conditioning coach. I don't know how to program that in, but you still have to be very strategic with it. And like Andy said, where does it fit into your goals?
Yeah, but even like with sports, because I remember, my pops was my coach, and we never ever once went into training or a match on an empty stomach. There's no way when you're competing with a team that's fueled, they've been training well, and you guys are not eating for the performance on the pitch. You find it very hard even during the game. So even for performance, you just have to feel right, otherwise your performance suffers.
So I think let's talk about metabolic conditioning. And someone did ask me a question. Oh, Andy, you back?
I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
just gonna say one thing about, I like your point about stress on the body. And I think if you are someone who maybe has a high stress, isn't sleeping well, you probably want to just avoid HIIT training.
Yeah.
Because you're just accumulating more stress. More stress. Something's got to give. So easier to not do something like HIIT when the rest of your life is already producing too much stress.
Key. I think that's a key point. So let's talk about, I think, CrossFit and metabolic conditioning, because someone did ask me a question. And he said, can you use CrossFit WODs as cardio? Yes, before or after a weight training session. And I mean, that is CrossFit. And normally they do their WODs after the sort of strength component. Am I right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because
yeah.
If you've been paying attention, I'm like a teacher, you'll know that metabolic conditioning, that kind of interval training, is using a lot of fuel. So if you do that before a strength session, you ain't gonna have much energy for that strength session, and then you stand a high chance of actually injuring yourself.
Yeah, they do metcons last, actually.
So which is sensible. So
again, if you're doing your weight training properly and your strength training, you're going to use up a lot of glycogen just lifting weights. If you've ever checked because I check my blood glucose, I see how my blood glucose drops after a hard weight training session, and I'll check it. I'm almost, I'm right down at 4.2, 4.3. Now, if I was to then try and go into a metabolic workout, my blood glucose could get dangerously low. So you got to think to yourself, I need to fuel between that weight session before doing a CrossFit WOD, because what you're going to start doing is breaking down tissue, because you use up your glycogen out your muscles, then you use up your blood glucose. That's why your blood glucose is down to 4.2, and then you use a glycerol that's stored in your liver. And if you've ever done an intense workout, you feel this sort of funny feeling in your stomach where everything's breaking, and that's your liver's working, and then it starts saying, where else can I get carbohydrates from? I'm going to start converting proteins. Where can we get proteins from? We get proteins from lean tissue. The time it steals it from the lean tissue before it steals it from body fat. And that is a reality. It will take both, but it's not fussy what it's grabbing.
Yeah. I think what people do, like, which is a big mistake, is you do your, say, normal hypertrophy strength training session, and then throw in a CrossFit WOD. But when you think about it, CrossFit is programmed differently. They don't do the same hypertrophy strength sessions like we do. So if you want to, I guess, use the energy systems correctly, if you're doing CrossFit, do CrossFit, because they're programmed specifically for that. They're not doing an intense hypertrophy leg day and then just throwing in a WOD just by the way.
They program it for a reason.
Yeah. So like we always say, follow a program. What are your goals? Are you trying to, work on performance? Do you enjoy CrossFit? Then stick to CrossFit program. Follow the program.
CrossFit's a performance-based sport.
Yeah.
And it's not about being losing weight. CrossFit's not about losing weight. Some people lose weight by doing it, but actually, if you look at the size of a lot of the top CrossFit athletes, they're not small people.
They're not. They've got wonderful physiques.
Yeah, because their main goal, you don't ever hear anyone saying their main goal when doing CrossFit is fat loss. You know why you're going to do CrossFit. Then everything else after that is, I guess, second. So rather than you just throw in random WODs, either find a CrossFit coach to help you program CrossFit, or do it in phases. Have your hypertrophy strength phase, do your 3-4 months, take your break, then go into your CrossFit phase, and you can benefit from both worlds rather than you throwing random. In this case, where you'll just be confusing your body with your energy systems, and your body is like, okay, what's the goal here? What do you want? Why are we doing that? Yeah, so
I completely agree. I think people don't treat CrossFit properly. It's a sport. It's a performance sport. You don't go into about to play a rugby match and go, I'm just going to hit the gym before the game. I'm just going to get, a bit of hypertrophy work before we play. You don't. You treat it as the sport it is, And same with CrossFit. You should be, if your goal is to be good at CrossFit, that's a great goal. Be good at CrossFit. But all your focus into that, right? That's not the same as losing body fat. You could actually hold a relatively high level of body fat and still be good at CrossFit. Maybe elements that you're not so good at, some of that, the running and stuff. But some of the strength stuff, some of strength components, you may kill it. Reality is, if you plan your nutrition based on the performance of CrossFit, you will slowly change your body shape. Exactly. If you look at the body shape of an average CrossFitter, let's take a female CrossFitter. Broad shoulders, broad hips. Stomachs are wide because it's a lot of core bracing. We don't have particularly hourglass figures. A female CrossFitter is a performance athlete, very powerful looking physique. strong, solid. It's been shaped by doing CrossFit. I've never seen a professional CrossFit athlete doing hypertrophy work.
Rarely.
Very rare.
Yeah, you don't see them doing glute exercises to have big glutes. They build their glutes from doing deadlifts. They build a strong core from bracing it, doing deadlift squats or whatever it may be, overhead pressing. There's a lot of core bracing.
Yeah,
but they train purely for CrossFit.
Yeah.
And everything they do, their diets are CrossFit. Everything's for that goal.
Yeah, they eat a lot. Like professional CrossFit athletes, they eat a lot. They fuel for performance.
Yeah.
Thousands of calories. Like the guys on about 6,000 to 7,000 calories a day.
Yeah, and you need it. So if you're doing CrossFit for fat loss, you've got to think again and think of that. Your risk of injury. You could maybe be in a slight deficit, but you'd have to be careful how you fuel around your workouts.
Yeah.
And if you are someone who wants to do interval training, metabolic conditioning, sort of WODs, and you're not a CrossFit athlete, but you want to do it for fat loss, you can, but you've got to take into account your recoverability. And if you're just doing that as your sort of cardio for fat loss, the emphasis should still be on your strength and hypertrophy sessions. And if these WODs or metabolic conditioning are not letting you recover enough for your strength training sessions, you'll need to rethink that. And again, think of your nutrition around these. Like, there's no point going into these fasted. I don't understand the whole sort of fasted, like that makes you feel like you're burning more fat.
Some mindset thing.
No. So you've just got to really think, how are you going to program these in? It's probably not a good idea to do them every single day, because you will not be able to recover from that if you are in a deficit. And it's going to really impact your strength sessions. And like Andy said, your body's not fussy. It's going to be like, wow, let's get rid of this expensive muscle tissue here.
Really?
You are trying to keep at all costs, hopefully. So,
like what Leon said, I think, if you want a good physique, take a section of your year to work on losing body fat before going back into something like CrossFit. I used to say we don't play rugby to get fit. We get fit to play rugby. So in that off season, between the last game and the first game, you will get yourself as fit as you can for the rest of the season. But once you're in the season, your focus would be on, right, we're going to play rugby.
Yeah.
Do all my Muay Thai in between the last game and first game. I would have that window where, I would get into great shape and do really well at Muay Thai. As long as I didn't get injured, I start the rugby season in wicked shape. And then, but once I was playing and we were in the league, and that all my goals were based on what can I do to get onto that rugby pitch. The training in the gym was for rugby purposes, building muscle.
Yeah.
So, but that window, those few months you've got in between, you can work on getting yourself into the best possible shape to give you the best performance. And if that's increasing your fitness, increasing muscle. So that's what we do with CrossFit. Say, right, I want to be really good at CrossFit. I want to score really highly in these opens or these whatever competitions. I'm going to take a few months to actually get myself into good shape. So when I start, I'm purely focused on CrossFit. I don't need to worry about excess body fat, or anything else. I am going to now focus on performance.
So I think maybe because we've talked about strength, performance, fat loss. So I guess any cardio you choose will depend on which your primary goal there. And
exactly.
You guys mentioned a good thing, stress. Like, how well do you deal with stress will just determine which works best for you anyway.
And if you are someone who is a bodybuilder or watches bodybuilders, you will see that their preferred form of cardio for fat loss is less or miss. As Andy said, like, you do 30 or 30 minutes on the elliptical. You do, Stairmaster is pretty brutal. But yeah, think, you know, a 30-minute swim, you know, a power walk, your elliptical, things like that, because you can recover from it.
Mhm.
And it's not interfering with the, you know, your main resistance training session. And like for me, in my whole fat loss phase, I tried some interval training and I just couldn't recover from it. So I was like, no, not working for me. Let me do less. And so that's why you will see a lot of bodybuilders doing that. And a lot of people whose goal is purely fat loss, not performance, will, you know, you would program more lists over those other methods.
Yeah, it's
and I think that would cover a bit. Go on, Leon. Go on.
I was just adding to what I noticed, like what Claire said. A lot of bodybuilders, I guess, on Instagram will do it for Instagram and be like, "Yeah, this prep season, I'll try to hit training." And after about 3-4 weeks, you notice that the videos stop and they're back to And you know, it's Instagram. You don't want to show like, "Crap, this I failed in this," so you won't hear them go like, yeah, that became too hard for me and I changed. But
you rarely see bodybuilders doing like true hit.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't mention names, but maybe the IFBB probably listen. But
I always say when I'm programming clients, when we're going through their onboarding, when we're doing their onboarding, I say that we're going to do three sessions of cardio a week. But we're going to be 30-minute sessions, and you've got to be able to just raise your heart rate enough. Let's get it over 120 beats per minute. Keep it there for as much as you can for 30 minutes. But you've got to be able to recover. So I prefer bikes.
Yeah, bikes.
You know, things that are a bit joint, not so tough on the joints. That ellipticals. But I do have one client who loves running. And she asked if she could run 3 times a week, 2 short runs and 1 really long run. So what we did is made that long run really a higher calorie day.
Yeah.
We just put carbs and say, look, we're going to cram the carbs just before, a couple of hours before you go do your long run. And, the rest, because, we want you to be able to recover.
Mm-hmm.
So, we also time the cardio to always be either, if you can't make it the evening, so you do your training, your weights in the morning, eat, and then do your training at night, you do your cardio at night, just do it after. But let's just think, we want to keep the heart rate high. It will burn calories, but that's not I always say it's not our primary focus. I just want you to be healthy. And also there's good science behind increasing, blood getting pumped to muscles. So a bit of cardio in with your weight training will help increase gains rather than take them away, as long as done properly. So what we do is, just these short sessions, about a week for most of my guys and girls, most throughout the week, short sessions that we have enough nutrients for. It's planned, it's planned for, we're not, it's accounted for.
Yeah, no, I like how you say that. Like, if you've planned and programmed properly for cardio, it should enhance, your health, your strength training. And, if it's going to be a slightly more intense session, you just plan your nutrition around that as well. So, if the goal is fat loss, just throwing more and more cardio at your body is not going to help. It has to be programmed and periodized because your body does adapt quickly to cardio. If you're someone who just does 20 minutes, you're not so intense, 20, 30 minutes on the elliptical 3 times a week, and that is all you ever do for your cardio, and it's the same, your body's going to adapt to that really quickly. Yeah. So, often for, again, fat loss, you're going to have to periodize that cardio and either make it a little bit more intense, maybe add in some intervals, or maybe make it a bit longer, to keep achieving your fat loss goals. But again, it's got to take into account your recoverability. Probably bored of that.
So also, you got to think, do you actually enjoy cardio?
Mm-hmm.
Because don't do something you're not going to enjoy. I always say the best form of cardio is one you enjoy most, as long as it's recoverable. And if it's going to be tough, like I said, one of my clients loves going for a long run. She's working on a 10K thing. I'm like, great, because that's going to bring you much more happiness and therefore better for your stress levels and your dopamine levels. So we'll fill it in, we'll build it in, and actually we'll make it part of our planning and our programming. And same with, like, if someone says to me, I want to go for a really, like, 100-mile bike ride every Sunday, make sure we know what nutrients we're getting and make it part of it. And that's, it can happen. There's no point overly doing cardio, one that you hate, just because for the sake of doing cardio. I say, the best form of cardio is one you can enjoy the most, get the most out of in the shortest time without, damaging your body, without, stressing the body too much. So if it's going to give you dopamine, like people who love swimming, go swimming, enjoy it, have fun in the pool. It may be cardio, doesn't have to be in the gym on the treadmill.
Oh.
It may be doing a bit of agility work with your dog. It may be, I know someone who does canicross, which is like cross-country running with dogs. It's a race. It's a timed race. Brilliant. That sort of thing. I would love that, all my knees with them. But, if that had been around when I was younger, I would have probably done it because, you're out with your dog. It's enjoyable. A bonding moment. Dopamine levels are going to be high. And that's all good for your cortisol levels. And it's good for preventing depression. It's good for the mental health aspects. So, there is that part to it. It's just about, if there is something you love, if you have a coach, tell your coach. If not, program it in. Just make sure you have enough nutrients, enough time to recover. And you're not going to get injured.
Yep. So I think that wraps up our episode here on cardio. So just to recap, we have 3 energy systems that our body uses. So when you're trying to program your cardio, do think about that. What are you trying to work? Your goals are really important here. Is it for performance? Is it for fat loss? So that has to be key. Your nutrition has to be in line with it as well. And then think about recoverability. That is key. Can you recover from the cardio you're doing? If not, rethink it. So like Andrew said, if you have a coach, this is what you'll discuss with a coach. If you're programming for yourself, just understand those basics. Think of your goals. What are you trying to work? If it's fat loss, just throwing everything at fat loss, it does not work. It does not work. Your body is very smart. So you can never trick it. So that is that on cardio. And are we doing any cardio today?
I'll go maybe a walk, maybe jump around in the pool for 7 minutes. But nothing serious. But today I'm going to do a full body, just nothing, no hit, no metcons, nothing.
Well,
Yeah.
right.
I've got a bit of cardio to do today. It's prep, isn't it?
Oh yeah, you're prepping, so
My cardio's gone up, but we see the way it's programmed in. It's programmed in based on calories, so we can monitor. How much nutrients, how much calories I'm taking in versus what's going on. So I plan to do 400 calories a week of cardio.
Nice.
So that could be in one session, 2 sessions. I'll probably do this 2 sessions for now, split into 2 20-minute sessions-ish. And do 200. So I might do a little bit after training today.
Make sure you record so we can save and do it too.
Yeah, exactly. Copy and save. Save and.
Oh, I see.
I don't know. I tend to. Me personally, I like to use a bike. If spin bikes are like my favorite because there's a sort of a cadence. You just keep going, and you can just keep quite steady pace without things changing too much.
Yeah, we've been considering getting an air bike one. Well,
amazing.
Amazing. They're nice. You can do that quick 10-12 second and just give
they're
it your
perfect
all.
for true hit.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah, so,
I,
and they're mechanical, so no electricity.
Well, that's why I like spin bikes as well, because there's not, you don't have to plug it into anything. Like, you know what power's like in Kenya. It's on off every couple of minutes. That's why cardio equipment in this country doesn't last. You go to a gym and most of them are not working. It's because power surges and power cuts. And
yeah, mechanical cardio machines, if you're looking for one for your home gym or starting gym as a business, would be the best and save you a lot on power. Another
cardio tips. Well, if you do have any questions on cardio, you can DM us. We love to talk about all of these topics. So on that note, I hope everyone has a great weekend.